Last fall, the Canadian chapter of the Inuit Circumpolar Conference held their annual general meeting here in Inuvik. During the two-day assembly, many issues were discussed and a new president and vice president were sworn in at that time. The Inuvialuit Communications Society talked with Terry Fenge and new president Sheila Cloutier on what transpired there. We're glad that you could join us. Enjoy the program. For SUAANGAN, I'm Lawrence Rogers.
Good morning.
The annual general meeting to order and present Elder Martha Harry to do the opening prayer.
As Canadian citizens, exercise, I think, a pretty sacred thing, being part of the free world of elections by the people, and a decision was made, and our Nunavut, Nunakput, Labrador, Nunavik woke up to the decision of the Assembly, and I think people will, I know, respect our decision. And unfortunately, it was between two people. We have to have a winner and we have to have a loser. So, but I really respect the Assembly's decision to elect a new president of Inuit of Canada, but it doesn't say anything about anything bad or otherwise about Mary Sellett, because she has been an incredible president for the last 2 years, taking the organization from an incredible deficit to a real manageable one. And for that, I know Ukalakayitsiak is going to have a way easier time to balance the budget of Inuit Teperikset. And I know that Mary Sellett is not going to disappear because of her commitment for many, many years to Inuit cause. For many of us who started working with her without gray hair, she developed gray hair with us. So she will be here. She will be around to help us, and we are much better for that. And for our token appreciation for her work, it's not a goodbye by any means, because I for one hope that we will fight over her to get her to assess in her intelligence and her ability and her work. So we had tossed a coin and I won. So I was the lucky one to be able to present her with this token of appreciation, a card from the board of directors to remember us by, and a small gift. Mary?
first of all, I'd like to congratulate Kusugak Shiela with yesterday's results, but I don't think I can leave without thanking the board for all of their support over the last 2 years. I had an interview with my home community organization this morning, the Okhalakhatik Society. At that time, I said I thanked every single person in Labrador who nominated me, who believed that I was qualified enough to run as a national leader of this country. I found that I'm very, very proud of that. And I also said to them, one of the concerns was that Labrador may not be represented fairly, but I was really touched by all of the national leaders in this country around this table saying that they are committed to ensuring that the interests of Labrador as well as of this country are represented equally and fairly. They will make sure that that happens. And I believe that. I trust that. I think the quality of the leadership around this table is something that all Inuit can be proud of, and I am also have been proud to be a part of this for the last 2 years. I want to thank the ITC staff very, very, very much for their hard work. I really do love them a lot, and I wish them well in their work, and I know that they will be treated fairly. And I would also like to thank the community of Inuvialuit, the Inuvialuit Regional Corporation for the extent, for the hospitality that it's shown, for the dances that they made us do for the first time, and since it was a great deal of fun. And thank you very, very much. Nakamik Khoyanamik.
What is your role with the Inuit Circumpolar Conference Canada?
I'm the research director of ICC. So I work for Sheela Cloutier, who's the vice president of ICC. I also do work for the international president, Akaluk Linga, who's based in Nuuk in Greenland.
And what kind of work does that involve?
I do primarily environmental work and resource management work. The sort of files that I work on would be transboundary contaminants, implementation of the Convention on Biological Diversity, things like that.
Some of the report that you gave, can you give us a brief overview of that report that you gave to the ICC Canada AGM they had?
I'll try. It was a fairly lengthy report. Let me pick 2 or 3 issues then. The first one is on the Convention on Biological Diversity. I indicated to the people gathered here that there is a major meeting coming up in Spain, in Madrid, in late November. This meeting will bring together 40 or 50 nations to look at how to incorporate traditional knowledge into national and international decision making. I indicated that we had been working hard to make sure that the Inuit perspective and indeed an Arctic perspective be brought forward at that conference. I indicated that we would be utilizing a recently published book published by the Inuit in Sanakiloak in the Belgian Islands and the Canadian Arctic Resources Committee on a traditional knowledge study in Hudson Bay. One of the other main topics I briefed people on was the state of play in international negotiations to reduce emission of contaminants generated and used in tropical and temperate countries that unfortunately end up in the Arctic and contaminate the food web here. We are working hard in international negotiations currently underway on this in Geneva, and we are getting ready to participate in global negotiations that will begin probably toward the end of next year, will be conducted under the auspices of the United Nations Environment Programme. So those are probably the 2 main files, that environmental files that we're working on, that we spoke about at some length in the meeting.
Could I ask you about the NAMCO, what that stands for, and a little bit of we are involved with NAMCO
Sure.
and how that would benefit the Inuit people.
Certainly, NAMCO stands for the North Atlantic Marine Mammal Commission. Now, this is a commission that brings together a number of governments around the North Atlantic, and its mandate is to manage marine mammals. Canada is an observer in this institution and has been for some time, and participates in some of the scientific meetings that NAMCO puts in place. Now, NAMCO's mandate is to promote ecosystem management. We believe that Canada should join. We believe that that would be very much in the Inuit interest. We must appreciate that Canada is not a member of the International Whaling Commission, and we don't wish to be a member. However, Canada wishes to put forward a cooperative approach toward managing migratory species. We believe that that could perhaps best be done through Canadian membership in NAMCO. If we make an application, and if we are accepted, which I no doubt we would be, that would help us withstand further pressure from the United States of America and radical animal rights organizations that we rejoin the International Whaling Commission.
And some of the things like for instance on the International Whaling Commission, we do not want to be involved with the or be a member of the International Whaling Commission, and we've kind of got our feet stepped on like from America, from the president. Can you give me some of the information on that?
This year has seen a major controversy regarding Inuit harvesting practices on bowhead, and I think most people are aware of this. But in February of this year, Mr. Clinton, the President of the United States, cited Canada in sending a message to Congress accusing Canada of allowing harvesting of an endangered species. He also accused Canada of allowing harvesting outside the conservation provisions provided by the International Whaling Commission. Now, this is an ongoing issue. Canada, I understand, is using quiet diplomacy to try and set the record straight. Whether that will be successful, we'll wait and see. Interesting that this is taking place at the same time as the Pacific salmon dispute. The bowhead dispute has not got the sort of press that we've associated with salmon. Nevertheless, it's a far more important issue for Inuit. This also, I think, adds credence to our suggestion that Canada join NAMCO as opposed to IWC. If we are seen to discuss these issues openly and honestly in an international forum, I think we'd prefer to do that in NAMCO rather than IWC.
The Inuit do play and have a large voice internationally. Do you think?
Yes, I certainly do. There are not many Inuit in the world, yet the sort of influence that Inuit are able to bring to bear on national, circumpolar and international bodies far outweighs the basic number of Inuit. And indeed, in my experience, I believe that Inuit have greater sway or can exercise greater influence on the international stage than most other Aboriginal peoples that I've come across around the globe.
And that's because of the extent of work that you assist us in doing?
In part, it's because Inuit reside in 4 nations of the world, and Inuit saw fit 20 years ago to establish an organization to represent that collective interest on the international stage. So whereas many other Aboriginal peoples reside solely or only within one individual country, Inuit have people from 4 countries and therefore can rely, hopefully, upon 4 national governments to assist them in international lobbying.
Is that some of the work that the Arctic Environmental Protection Strategy does?
Yes, it certainly is.
As well as the Arctic Council?
Yes, it is. The Arctic Council is a grouping of all 8 circumpolar nations. But Inuit are there round the table with those 8 national governments. We don't have the same authority as those governments, but nevertheless we have considerable moral authority and often bring intellectual weight to the discussions.
On both the Arctic Council and the AEPF?
Yes, that's correct.
Do you have any other comments that you'd like to make?
No, but it was delightful to meet you.
Thank you.
Yep, my name name is Sheela Cloutier, and I'm the president for ICC Canada.
And can you give us an idea of what that entails?
Well, what it entails is representing Canada on all the issues on the international front, whether it be environmental issues, contaminant issues, sealing issues, whaling, all of those things that we've discussed this week at this meeting. So that's what that means, is representing and advocating our rights at many, many levels, including the United Nations as well.
And how big of a voice and input do you think that the Inuit people have?
We have started, because the ICC started up in the late 70s, and I've been building up that voice over the years. In the last 20 years, our voice just continues to get stronger, and we become even better at articulating our concerns at many of these levels. So the experience is certainly behind us now, and it does get stronger all the time. This work is long and very laborious, and it takes a long time, because what it's doing, what trying to attempt to do, is change not only the mentalities of the dominant world and the countries around, but the policies, and that entails an awful lot of footwork, a lot of lobbying, going out there. So it takes many, many years sometimes just to change those policies that are out there, and it takes a long time.
In this 1996-97 like fiscal year, what have been some of the work that you have touched on nationally and internationally?
Well, a lot of the work that we've been doing, as we said in our meetings today, and the presentations that we've made, have always been in the international level, in the area of contaminants. Is again lobbying the groups to make sure that people become aware of what it is that we're faced with, having contaminants coming to our precious country food, and lobbying those groups. That's been and that continues to be our foremost important file, is the contaminants issue. But we also have other issues like the human rights issue, the indigenous issues that we work with the United Nations on, making sure that our voice is always there, being heard on those issues as well.
You touched on a little bit about NAMCO and CITES. Could you explain what the NAMCO is and how you're involved with them, and as well CITES, what CITES is?
Well, CITES is the organization, as Craig was talking about, on the Commission on Endangered Species, and what we're trying to do is get our voices heard there at those big forums where we may not be able to make any fast changes or quick changes to any of these, but the more we attend these kinds of very worldwide known organizations, the more we become stronger in our voices, and the more, because we're never involved and we'll never be heard. So even though the changes might be minute, at least we're out there voicing ourselves in that whole process. And if ever, I mean, we may not be going through those kinds of struggles now of endangered species, but if ever we do, then we would be experienced in dealing with those kinds of world organizations. The other one that you asked about was the marine mammal. Well, those are the things that my staff, are constantly involved in those kinds of meetings to protect our rights in those areas. And it's always an ongoing work when it comes to those kinds of those issues.
And you get feedback or input from all the
we work with the regions. It depends on what the topic is at the time too. If there's an area on sealing, for example, then it's certain regions that have the sealing issues in their homelands or in their areas. And if it's to do with other issues like whaling, then it would be another region. And sometimes we have common, of course, concerns that we work together on. But we always try our best to work with the regions in all of the work that we do.
The Inuit Circumpolar Conference, dealing with all the four countries, is coming up this June. What kind of July? What kind of preparation do you have to do?
There's a lot of preparation for it. First of all, it's the fundraising is one that has to be really in place. And as again the discussion was there, has the fundraising started, and where are we going to get it, and where are we going to try to seek those funds to hold such a thing? And as it was stated, it would cost anywhere from $350,000 to $500,000. just for the Canadian delegation to go there, because it's not just delegates, it's also entertainers and elders and youth who are involved in the process. And travel always is extremely expensive. So the fundraising has to get started, the planning of it, and who is going to be invited as guests. And there's a lot of detail to this work before the actual event happens.
And it's going to be held in
Nuuk, Greenland. In Nuuk, Greenland in July, the end of July. And I think the actual assembly itself will take 5 days, but I think the Greenland people are planning for it to be a good cultural exchange as well as just meeting of the heads.
And the Elders Conference takes place at the same time?
At the same time.
And do you help coordinate the Canadian Elders?
Yes,
Elders
we
Conference
do.
as well? And
Yes, we do.
does that
That's all
involve
part.
the same things as the Inuit Circumpolar Conference itself, or do they have
The elders,
their kind of their own issues?
their own, yeah. The elders always have, in the beginning, from the beginning, have always had their own conference just out, I mean, in the same place, and they come and they join the assembly at times of the meeting and to present their resolutions and their recommendations as well, but they usually like to have their own meetings outside of the assembly itself.
Why is that? Do you know?
I'm not sure I'm not sure how that really started, you know, why the elders wanted to have their separate things. I don't know if they felt that they had different issues to deal with, that they were not so involved in some of the work that we were doing. I'm really not sure about the history of that, but I do know that I'm almost positive it was by choice that they wanted to have their own meetings.
And they involve it in some way, bring it back to the main conference?
That's right, yes.
Do you have any other comments that about the ICC AGM that really stands out in your mind that occurred here?
Well, I think rather than one issue or two issues that really stood out, I think the whole thing, when I step back, has been very positive. We have extremely mature leaders around the country who are extremely not only interested but very responsible to their regions, and who ask very valid, responsible questions towards the accountability and responsibility of ICC, towards them and towards the representation that we do. So it's always a very energizing for us to hear from the regions and to have that kind of dialogue, so that we know if we're on the right track, we're told. If we're not, we're told, and we need to have that kind of input from the regions to see whether or not. Because sometimes, you know, organizations can take a life of their own, and it's good to keep that contact so that we always know that we're on track with what the people want. And for me, that's, and of course here has been just very hospitable, I mean, really, really kind, and the hospitality here has been wonderful, and we've appreciated the Inuvialuit spirit, let me tell you, and the mud duck has been great. So we're really appreciating that. Yeah, thank you.
Raise your right hand.
I, Sheila Cloutier, do solemnly swear that I will well and faithfully perform the duties of the office I'm about to enter. So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you. The Code of Conduct for ICC. The Board of Directors of ICC, as the guiding minds of ICC, aspire to provide ICC with excellence of governance and leadership. In this pursuit, all directors shall have regard to the following points. I shall at all times, in the course of carrying out my duties, act in the best interest of ICC and be mindful of my role as a fiduciary of the corporation. I shall not in any way compete with ICC or undermine the fulfillment of its objectives. Rather, to the extent, to the extent that individual directors also act as directors of other organizations, their activities must be complementary to those of ICC and vice versa. I shall respect the confidentiality of information brought to meetings of the Board of Directors and other confidential information of ICC generally. I shall not be involved in any activity which may be perceived as a conflict of interest. I will not profit directly or indirectly from the activities of ICC except as permitted in the bylaws of ICC and resolutions of the Board of Directors and officers. I will not engage in behavior either in the course of his or in the course of my duties as a director or otherwise, or in my personal or professional pursuits that would bring disrepute upon ICC or otherwise cause harm to the organization. I shall act in a manner which provides accountability to the members of ICC. I shall ensure that I conduct a self-evaluation exercise on an annual basis to ensure that the board as a whole and individuals in their own capacity are fulfilling the requirements necessary to board performance. This evaluation should occur in tandem with the board's annual review of ICC's performance and achievements during a given year. I will demonstrate dedication to ICC's corporate mission and its objectives as stated in its letters patent. I will demonstrate a good working relationship with senior management of ICC. I will use my best efforts to attend all board meetings and any members' meetings and shall be punctual and participate fully in all such meetings. I shall similarly attend all meetings of such committees or make my best efforts to do so and shall be punctual for such meetings.
Thank you for joining us this evening. One thing to remember is the 8th Inuit Circumpolar Conference that will be held in New Greenland in July of this year. The theme for this year's assembly is Inuit Spirit for a Global Partnership. Thanks again for joining us. Good evening.
Raise your right hand.
I, Joe Lakunuk, do solemnly swear that I will and faithfully diligently the office I am about to enter. So help me God.
Congratulations.
Code of Conduct in the Circumpolar Conference, Canada. The Board of Directors of ICC, as the guiding minds of ICC, aspire to provide ICC with excellence of governance and leadership. In this pursuit, all directors shall have regard to the following points. I will at all times in the course of carrying out my duties act in the best interest of ICC and be mindful of my role as fiduciary of the corporation. I will not in any way compete with ICC or undermine the fulfillment of its objectives. Rather, to the extent that individual directors also act as director of other organizations, my activities must be complementary to those of ICC and vice versa. I will respect the confidentiality of information brought to meetings of the Board of Directors and other confidential information of ICC generally. I will not be involved in any activity which may be perceived as a conflict of interest. I will not profit directly or indirectly from the activities of ICC, except as permitted in the bylaws of ICC and resolutions of the Board of Directors and officers. I will not engage in behavior either in the course of my duties as director or otherwise in my personal or professional pursuits that will bring disrepute upon ICC or otherwise cause harm to the organization. I will act in a manner which provides accountability to the members of ICC.